My dad sold my worthless startup shares to my brother for $500, then asked me to invest in his retirement. I replied, "Check the shareholder registry." The email arrived at 11:23 p.m. on a Thursday. Subject line, Family Investment Opportunity. I was sitting in my apartment in Austin, working on code for a feature release, when my phone buzzed with the notification. My father, Richard Ashworth, wasn't the type to send late-night emails. He was a phone call guy, preferably during business hours, preferably when he had something to complain about. I opened it. "David, your mother and I have been discussing our retirement planning, and we'd like to propose an investment opportunity. We're looking to establish a more secure financial foundation, and given your tech background, we thought you might be interested in contributing. We're seeking $75,000 from you and the same from your brother Justin. In return, we'll ensure you're both listed as beneficiaries in our estate planning. This is a family matter, so we'd appreciate your response by Monday. Best, Dad." I read it 3 times. Then I started laughing. Not a chuckle. A full, body-shaking laugh that made my roommate Alex knock on my door and ask if I was okay. I couldn't answer. I was too busy scrolling through my phone to find the screenshot I'd saved 4 years ago. The one I looked at whenever I needed motivation. The one that reminded me why I'd stopped talking to my family. It was a text from my father, dated March 15th, 4 years earlier. "Dad, Justin's interested in those shares you mentioned. I told him $500 is fair since the company's going nowhere. He'll Venmo you tomorrow. Consider it a lesson learned about realistic career planning." I'd never responded to that text, never argued, never explained. I'd just let him sell my shares to my brother for $500 and watched what happened next. What happened next was that those shares became worth $43 million, and my father had no idea. Let me back up. I graduated from UT Austin in 2018 with a degree in computer science and a head full of ideas that nobody took seriously. I was 22, optimistic, and convinced I could build something meaningful. My senior year project was a data compression algorithm that could reduce file sizes by 68% without quality loss. It was elegant, efficient, and according to my father, completely worthless. "Data compression?" he'd said over Christmas dinner that year, stabbing his fork into his mashed potatoes. "That's your big plan? David, there are 1,000 companies doing that. You're not special. You're not going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. You need to get a real job." My mother, Patricia, had nodded along. My brother Justin, 3 years older and working as a sales manager at a pharmaceutical company, had smirked into his wine glass. "I mean, he's right, Dave. Maybe try applying at Google or something. At least you'd have benefits." I tried to explain that my algorithm was different, that I'd already filed a provisional patent, that I had interest from 2 venture capital firms, but my father had held up his hand. "Venture capital. Do you know how many startups fail? 90%. You're setting yourself up for disappointment. Be realistic." I left that dinner early, drove back to my apartment, and spent the next 6 months proving him wrong. I founded Cipher Analytics in January 2019 with my college roommate Nathan Wu and a classmate named Priya Kapoor. We bootstrapped it with $30,000 Nathan's parents lent us and $15,000 I'd saved from internships. We incorporated in Delaware. Nathan was CEO, Priya was COO, and I was CTO. I owned 34% of the company, 340,000 shares at 1 cent per share. By March 2019, we'd built a functional prototype. We had 3 beta clients. We were growing, slowly, but we were growing. I mentioned it to my father once during a phone call. He'd sighed. "David, when are you going to stop playing entrepreneur and get a real job? Your mother and I didn't pay for your education so you could waste time on pipe dreams." "You didn't pay for my education," I'd reminded him. "I had a full scholarship." "Well, we supported you emotionally. That counts for something." That was the last real conversation we had about Cipher Analytics until the text arrived in March 2021. By then, Nathan, Priya, and I had grown the company to 12 employees. We had actual revenue, $780,000 in 2020. We'd closed a Series A funding round with Elevation Ventures for $3 million. My shares had been diluted to 28%, but they were now worth approximately $840,000 on paper. Not life-changing money yet, but real value. I'd mentioned to my father during a brief phone call that I still had my shares. I'd said it casually, not thinking much of it. 2 weeks later, he texted me, "Dad, been thinking about those shares. You holding on to them? Your brother Justin mentioned he might be interested in getting into tech investments. Could be good for him to diversify. If you are enjoying this story already, please subscribe to see more stories like this. I should have seen it coming, should have recognized the setup, but I was stupid and still hungry for his approval, so I responded. Me, yeah, I still have them. Company's doing okay. About to close another funding round. Dad, how much would you want for them? Ballpark." I'd done the math in my head. At the current valuation, my shares were worth about $840,000, but they were restricted stock. I couldn't sell them yet without board approval, and I didn't want to sell them. I believed in what we were building. So I'd tried to explain this to my father. Me, they're not really for sale. They're restricted and I want to keep them. The company's growing fast. Dad, everything's for sale at the right price. Give me a number. Me, Dad, I don't want to sell them. Dad, You're being stubborn. This is exactly why you'll never be successful in business. You don't know when to take a win. Justin's willing to pay cash. Just give me a realistic number. I'd made a mistake then. A big one. I'd gotten angry and typed out something I shouldn't have. Me. Fine. If Justin wants to invest in worthless shares so badly, he can have them for $500. That's what you think they're worth, right? A lesson in realistic career planning? I'd meant it sarcastically. I'd meant it as a challenge, a way to show my father how little he understood about what I'd built. I thought he'd back off, realize I was mocking him. Instead, he took me seriously. Dad. $500. Done. Justin will Venmo you tomorrow. I'll have our family attorney draft a simple transfer agreement. This is good for both of you. He gets into tech investing, you get some cash for your little experiment. I'd stared at that text for 20 minutes. Surely he was joking. Surely he understood I was being sarcastic. But the next day, Justin Venmo'd me $500 with the note, for startup shares. Thanks, bro. Then my father emailed me a share transfer agreement drafted by his attorney, some guy named Paul Montgomery, who did basic estate planning and contract review. The agreement was simple. I, David Ashworth, agreed to transfer all my shares in Cipher Analytics Inc. to Justin Ashworth for the sum of $500, paid in full. I should have refused, should have fought it, but something in me snapped. Some combination of spite and curiosity, and the desire to see just how far my father's dismissal of me would go. So I signed it. I transferred 280,000 shares, we'd done a split, to my brother for $500. And then I waited. The transfer took 3 weeks to process through our corporate attorney, a woman named Rebecca Ortiz, who specialized in startup law. She called me when she saw the paperwork. David, I need to verify this transfer. You're selling 28% of the company to your brother for $500. That's correct. You understand these shares are currently valued at approximately $840,000 based on our last funding round? I understand. Silence. Then, is someone forcing you to do this? Are you under duress? No. My brother made an offer. I accepted. David, I'm required to tell you this is an insanely bad deal. You're leaving $839,500 on the table. I know exactly what I'm doing, Rebecca. Process the transfer. She'd sighed. Fine. It's your equity. I'll file the paperwork. But for the record, this is the worst financial decision I've seen a founder make in 11 years of practice. The transfer went through on April 8, 2021. Justin became a 28% shareholder in Cipher Analytics. My stake dropped to 0%, and my father sent me one final text. Dad, Justin's excited about his investment. Glad you finally learned to be realistic about these things. Maybe now you can focus on finding a real job. I didn't respond. I didn't tell them what was about to happen. I just waited. 3 weeks later, on May 1st, 2021, Microsoft made an offer to acquire Cipher Analytics for $127 million. We'd been in talks with them for 8 months. They wanted our compression technology for their cloud infrastructure. Nathan, Priya, and our investors had been negotiating the terms. The deal was structured as $85 million upfront, plus $42 million in retention bonuses over 3 years. Justin's 28% stake would be worth $35.6 million. My stake would be worth $0. When Rebecca called to tell me the deal was closing, I could hear the discomfort in her voice. David, I have to ask one more time. Do you want to challenge the share transfer? We could argue you were coerced, that the consideration was grossly inadequate. You could potentially void the transfer and reclaim your equity. No. You're walking away from $35 million. I'm not walking away from anything. I made a deal. I'm honoring it. Why? I'd smiled, alone in my apartment. Because my family thinks I'm a failure who wastes time on worthless projects. I want to see what happens when they realize what they actually had. That's extremely petty. I know. The acquisition closed on June 15, 2021. The news went public the next day. TechCrunch ran a story. Microsoft acquires Cipher Analytics for $127 million in cloud infrastructure play. The article mentioned Nathan Wu and Priya Kapoor as co-founders. My name appeared once, in the 4th paragraph, as former CTO David Ashworth, who left the company earlier this year. I didn't leave. I'd been hired by Microsoft as part of the acquisition, along with Nathan and Priya. My retention package was $4.2 million over 3 years, paid in Microsoft stock. I just wasn't a shareholder anymore. My phone started ringing at 8:47 a.m., the morning the story broke. Dad. I didn't answer. He called 6 more times. Then Justin called. Then my mother. I let them all go to voicemail. Dad's voicemail. David, call me immediately. I'm seeing news about your company. We need to talk about Justin's shares. Justin's voicemail. Holy shit, Dave. Did you see the news? Did you know this was happening? Call me back. Mom's voicemail. David, your father's very upset. Please call us. This is a family matter. I deleted them all. Then I called Rebecca. I need you to explain something to me about shareholder rights. If someone buys shares and then the company gets acquired, what are they entitled to? The acquisition price per share, minus any outstanding obligations. Why? My brother's going to get $35.6 million from Microsoft. What happens if he tries to claim I defrauded him? Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Did you know about the Microsoft acquisition when you transferred the shares? We were in talks. Nothing was certain. The deal could have fallen through. Then you didn't defraud him. You sold shares at a price he agreed to. The fact that they appreciated rapidly afterward isn't your problem. He got exactly what he paid for. Good. Because I imagine he's going to be very angry when he finds out what he has to pay in taxes. Rebecca laughed. It was sharp, delighted. Oh God, he doesn't know about the short-term capital gains tax, does he? He doesn't know anything. My father handled the whole transaction. I doubt either of them consulted a tax attorney. David, your brother is going to owe approximately $12.5 million in federal taxes alone. More if he's in a state with income tax. If he doesn't have the cash to cover it, he's going to have to sell a huge portion of his payout just to pay the IRS. I know. You beautiful, petty bastard. I didn't hear from my family for 3 weeks. Radio silence. I assumed they were dealing with lawyers, accountants, the sudden reality of having more money than they'd ever imagined. I went to work at Microsoft, integrated into their cloud infrastructure team, and focused on my job. Then the letters started arriving. The first one came from Paul Montgomery, my father's attorney. It was addressed to me at my Austin apartment, certified mail. Dear Mr. Ashworth, I represent Richard and Patricia Ashworth regarding a share transfer that occurred in April 2021. My clients believe there may have been a misunderstanding regarding the value and terms of this transfer, and they request a meeting to discuss a more equitable arrangement. Please contact my office at your earliest convenience. I scanned it and emailed it to Rebecca. Her response, ignore it. He has no legal standing. The transfer was executed properly. You owe them nothing. The second letter came a week later. This one from a different attorney, someone named Gregory Stevens from a firm in Dallas. It was addressed to both me and Cipher Analytics, now Microsoft. Demand for share transfer rescission. My client, Justin Ashworth, demands the immediate rescission of a share transfer executed under fraudulent pretenses in April 2021. Mr. Ashworth was not adequately informed of the company's valuation or pending acquisition negotiations. We demand the return of said shares or compensation in the amount of $35.6 million. Rebecca called me that afternoon. This is hilarious. They hired a real attorney this time. Gregory Stevens does corporate litigation. He's expensive. Can they win? No. You weren't required to disclose pending negotiations. The acquisition wasn't finalized. He bought shares in a private company at a price he agreed to. The fact that he didn't do due diligence is his problem, but they're going to make noise. Let them. The third letter arrived 2 days later. From my father. Handwritten. David, I don't know what game you're playing, but this has gone too far. Justin is your brother. You knowingly sold him shares for $500 when you knew they were worth millions. That's fraud. That's theft. We've tried to reach you like adults, but you won't even return our calls. If you don't agree to make this right, we're prepared to take legal action. This isn't about money, it's about family. Mom. I read it twice. Then I wrote my response. 1 sentence. I mailed it back to him. Check the shareholder registry. Ask Justin how much he paid. 3 days later, my father showed up at my apartment. It was Saturday morning, 9:15 a.m. I was drinking coffee and reviewing code when someone buzzed my apartment. I checked the camera. My father, standing in the lobby, looking older than I remembered. Gray hair, deep lines around his eyes. He was wearing slacks and a button-down, his lawyer clothes. I buzzed him up. When I opened the door, he didn't say hello, just pushed past me into my apartment and looked around like he was conducting an inspection. I'd upgraded after the Microsoft retention bonus kicked in. 2-bedroom apartment in a nice building downtown. Not extravagant, but comfortable. You've done well for yourself, he said. His voice was acid. I'm doing fine. Microsoft's paying you, I assume? Some kind of salary for your work? They are. He turned to face me. His expression was hard, angry, but underneath it I could see something else. Desperation. David, we need to talk about Justin's shares. There's nothing to talk about. You sold him shares for $500 knowing they were worth millions. That's fraud. No, that's a voluntary sale at an agreed-upon price. He made an offer. I accepted. You didn't tell him about the Microsoft deal. I didn't know there would be a Microsoft deal. We were in talks. Nothing was guaranteed. The deal could have fallen through. It almost did twice. My father's jaw tightened. You're lying. I'm not. Check with Microsoft's legal team. Check the acquisition timeline. We didn't have a signed term sheet until May 15th. Justin bought the shares April 8th, over a month before we had any certainty. But you knew it was possible. You knew the company had value. I knew the company had potential. So did Justin. That's why he wanted to invest in tech, remember? You told me he wanted to diversify. He got exactly what he paid for. My father took a step closer. We were the same height now. I'd grown up. You did this on purpose. You manipulated him. I offered him shares at a price. He accepted. If he felt that was too much, he could have declined. If he wanted to know the company's valuation, he could have asked. I wasn't obligated to volunteer that information. He's your brother, and you're my father. You told me my company was worthless. You said I needed to learn about realistic career planning. You sold my equity to my brother for $500 because you thought I was wasting my life. Remember? His face went red. That's not. We were trying to help you. Help me by selling my shares without my consent? Help me by telling Justin it was a good investment while simultaneously telling me it was worthless? We didn't think. He stopped himself. You didn't think it would actually be worth something. I know. That's the problem. We stood there in silence. I could see him processing, calculating, trying to find an angle. Finally, he said, Justin owes $14.3 million in taxes. He can't pay it. He's going to lose everything. That's unfortunate. David, he's your brother. You have to help him. I laughed. It came out cold. Why? Because that's what family does. Family? Like when you supported my business? Like when you believed in me? Like when you told me at Christmas dinner that I wasn't special and I'd never succeed? My father's expression shifted. Something like guilt flickered across his face, but it was gone quickly, replaced by anger. So this is revenge? You're destroying your brother's life because I hurt your feelings? I'm not destroying anything. I sold him an asset. He chose to buy it. What he does with it is his responsibility. He's going to lose his house, David. He took out loans against the payout. He bought a new car. He thought he was set. Then he should have consulted a financial advisor before spending money he didn't have yet. My father's hands were shaking. I'd never seen him like this. Unmoored. Desperate. What do you want? Money? Is that what this is about? We can pay you back the difference. We can set up a payment plan. You can't afford that. The difference is $35.6 million. You don't have that kind of money. Then what? What do you want from us? I looked at him. At the man who'd raised me to be responsible, to be realistic, to never dream bigger than what was safe. The man who'd sold my future for $500 and called it a life lesson. Nothing, I said. I don't want anything from you. David, you should leave. We're your family. You can't just cut us off. Watch me. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he left. Didn't slam the door. Just walked out quietly, like a man who'd lost an argument he didn't know he was having. I sat down on my couch and felt nothing. Just empty. Hollow. I'd won. I'd proven my father wrong. I'd watched my brother get exactly what he deserved, and it felt like ash. That was 4 years ago. Now, staring at my father's email asking me to invest $75,000 in his retirement, I felt that same hollow emptiness. Except this time, it was mixed with something else. Curiosity. Because my father wasn't stupid. Desperate, yes. Prideful. Absolutely. But not stupid. He had to know I wouldn't just give him money after what happened. Which meant this email was something else. A test. A trap. An attempt to open dialogue. I called Rebecca. It was 11:37 p.m., but she answered on the second ring. She always did. David, what fresh hell? Dad wants $75,000 for retirement planning. Sent me an email an hour ago. Silence. Then, does he know? Know what? About Vertex. Vertex Dynamics. My second company. The one I'd founded 18 months after the Microsoft acquisition using my retention bonus. The one that built quantum-resistant encryption protocols. The one that had just closed a Series B funding round at a $340 million valuation. The one where I owned 41% of the equity, worth approximately $139 million on paper. If this story keeps your interest, please subscribe to get more stories like this. The one my family had no idea existed. No, I said. Nobody knows except you, Nathan, and the investors. Good. Keep it that way. He's asking for $75,000. That's specific. Why that number? Rebecca was quiet for a moment. I could hear her typing. Let me pull some records. Hold on. More typing. Then, oh, that's interesting. What? Your brother filed for bankruptcy. Chapter 7. 3 months ago. I'm looking at the public records now. He listed $14.8 million in debt, mostly tax liens and personal loans. The court discharged it 2 weeks ago. My stomach dropped. He bankrupted? Completely. Lost everything. The house, the car, his investment accounts. The IRS got whatever they could from the Microsoft payout, but it wasn't enough. He's starting over with nothing. And my father? Your parents co-signed 2 of his loans. They're on the hook for $180,000. They've been making payments, but they're drowning. They refinanced their house, maxed out their credit cards. They're broke, David. I sat with that for a moment. My brother had lost everything. My parents were in financial ruin. All because of shares I sold for $500. All because they thought I was worthless. The $75,000, I said slowly. That's not for retirement planning. No, that's their total debt minus what they can sell the house for. They need you to save them. And Justin? Where's he now? More typing. According to his LinkedIn, he's working at a car dealership in Fort Worth. Sales associate. I laughed. It was sharp, bitter. My brother, who'd mocked my startup dreams, was selling cars. My father, who'd told me to get a real job, was begging me for money. What are you going to do? Rebecca asked. I'm going to respond to his email. David, I know, but I'm going to respond. I hung up and opened my laptop, pulled up my father's email and hit reply. Typed 5 words. Sent it before I could reconsider. Check the shareholder registry. D. Then I waited. The response came at 6:43 a.m. the next morning. Sunday. My father had clearly been up all night. David, I don't understand what you mean. What shareholder registry? Please call me. This is urgent. We need your help. Dad, I didn't call. Instead, I forwarded him a link. The public filing from Vertex Dynamics' Series B round. The one that listed all shareholders and their equity percentages. The one that showed David Ashworth owned 41% of a company valued at $340 million. His next email arrived 14 minutes later. You have another company? How long have you had this? Why didn't you tell us? I responded immediately. Same reason you didn't tell me you were selling my first company's shares to Justin. Family doesn't owe family information about their assets. You taught me that. This time, the response took 3 hours. When it came, it was different. Measured. Careful. David, I understand you're angry. I understand we made mistakes. But your brother is suffering. Your mother and I are drowning. We need help. Please. Whatever you want us to say, whatever you want us to do, we'll do it. Just please help your family. I stared at that email for a long time, thought about all the ways I could respond, all the cruel things I could say, all the ways I could make them feel exactly how they'd made me feel. Instead, I called Rebecca again. I need you to do something for me. Name it. I need you to create a detailed financial analysis. Show me exactly how much my parents owe, who they owe it to, and what their options are. Real options, not fantasies. You're going to help them? I'm going to understand the situation. That's all. She had the analysis to me by Monday afternoon. It was comprehensive, brutal, and clear. My parents owed $173,400 in total debt. They had $412,000 in equity in their house. If they sold and downsized, they could clear their debts and have about $190,000 left for retirement. It wouldn't be comfortable, but they'd survive. Justin's situation was simpler. He'd declared bankruptcy, wiped out his debts, and was starting over. He was 39 years old, working retail, living in a studio apartment. He had nothing and no prospects. I sat with that information for 2 days, didn't respond to my father's emails, didn't answer his calls, just thought about what justice actually looked like, what I wanted, what mattered. On Wednesday evening, I drove to Fort Worth. It took 3 hours from Austin. I pulled up to my parents' house at 7:18 p.m., the same house I'd grown up in. The lawn needed mowing, the paint was peeling on the shutters, everything looked tired. I knocked. My mother answered. She looked older, grayer, thinner. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. "David," she whispered. "Hi, Mom." She hugged me. I didn't hug back. After a moment, she pulled away, wiped her eyes. "Come in. Your father's in the living room." The house looked the same. Same furniture, same family photos on the wall. There was a picture of Justin and me from high school, both of us in soccer uniforms, grinning. I'd forgotten that existed. My father was sitting on the couch. He looked up when I walked in, stood slowly. "David, Dad, thank you for coming. I'm not here to give you money." His face fell. "Then why? I'm here to explain something to you. Both of you. Sit down." They sat. I stood. I'd planned this speech in the car, rehearsed it. Now, looking at them, I realized I didn't need the rehearsal. The words came easily. 4 years ago, you sold my shares for $500. You did it because you thought my company was worthless, because you thought I was wasting my life. You didn't ask me if I wanted to sell. You didn't ask what the company was worth. You just assumed you knew better. And when those shares turned out to be worth $35 million, you didn't apologize. You didn't acknowledge that you were wrong. You hired lawyers and tried to force me to give the money back. My father opened his mouth. I held up my hand. Now you're here, 4 years later, asking me for $75,000. Not because you respect me, not because you value me, but because you're desperate and you think I'm your backup plan, your safety net. "David, we're sorry," my mother started. Are you? Are you sorry you dismissed me? Sorry you mocked my work? Sorry you sold my future for $500? Or are you just sorry you need money?" Silence. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You're going to sell this house. You're going to pay off your debts. You're going to downsize and live within your means. You're going to figure out retirement on your own." My father's face went red. "You're just going to let us struggle? You're worth over $100 million and you're going to watch your own parents suffer?" "No, I'm worth $139 million actually. And yes, I'm going to let you experience the consequences of your choices, the same way you let me experience the consequences of mine when you thought I was failing." "That's different." "How? How is it different?" He couldn't answer. I pulled an envelope from my jacket pocket, set it on the coffee table. "This is from my attorney. It's a financial plan. If you follow it, you'll be fine. Not rich, not comfortable, but fine. You'll survive. That's all I'm offering. Information. The same thing you didn't give me when you sold my shares." I turned to leave. "David, please," my mother said. Her voice broke. "We're your family." I stopped at the door, looked back at them. "Family helps family, right? That's what you always said. So help each other. You have Justin. You have each other. You'll figure it out. We made mistakes," my father started. "You did, and I'm letting you live with them, the same way you taught me to live with mine." I left, got in my car, drove back to Austin. Halfway there, my phone started ringing. "Dad." I didn't answer. He called 8 more times. Then Justin called. Then my mother. I let them all go to voicemail. When I got home, I had 14 text messages. Most of them were from my father, ranging from angry to pleading to desperate. One was from Justin. "Justin, Dad told me what happened. I know you hate me. I know I fucked up. I just want you to know I'm sorry. Not for the money. for not believing in you, for thinking you'd fail. You didn't. I did. I deserve this. But Mom and Dad don't. Please help them. I read it 3 times. Then I blocked his number. Rebecca called me the next morning. Your father's attorney contacted me. They want to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. He's threatening to go public. Tell the story to the media. Make you look like a monster who's letting his parents suffer. Let him. David. Rebecca. I built 2 successful companies. I employ 87 people between Microsoft and Vertex. I donate $2.3 million a year to educational nonprofits. If my father wants to tell the world that his son won't give him free money after he sold that son's equity for $500 and called him a failure, let him. I'll survive the PR hit. She laughed. You're absolutely sure about this? Completely. Then I'll tell him to pound sand. 3 months later, I saw the Facebook post. My mother had made it public. A long, rambling story about how her successful son had abandoned his family, how she'd raised me to be better than this, how money changed people. It got 47 comments, mostly from people I didn't know, offering sympathy. One comment was from my high school girlfriend. That doesn't sound like the David I knew. Another from my old soccer coach. There's always 2 sides to a story. I didn't respond. Didn't engage. Just let it sit there. The truth would come out eventually. It always did. 2 weeks after that, TechCrunch ran a profile on Vertex Dynamics. They interviewed me, Nathan, our investors. They asked about my background, my previous success with Cipher Analytics. I told them the truth, all of it. The $500 share sale, my father's dismissal, the Microsoft acquisition, the family fallout. The reporter, a woman named Linda Kaufman, had stared at me across the coffee shop table. You sold your brother shares for $500, knowing they might be worth millions? I sold him shares for $500, not knowing if they'd be worth anything. He chose to buy them. He chose not to do due diligence. Those were his decisions. And now you won't help your parents? I gave them a financial plan that would solve their problems. They chose not to follow it because it required them to downsize and live within their means. That's their decision. The article ran with the headline, Vertex Dynamics founder on family failure and building after betrayal. It was fair, balanced. It quoted my father saying I was heartless. It quoted me saying I was setting boundaries. It let readers decide. The comments section was split. Half the people called me a monster. Half called me a hero. I didn't read any of them. I just kept working. 6 months after that, I was at a Microsoft event in Seattle when I saw Justin. He was there as a guest of someone in sales, looked uncomfortable in a borrowed suit. We made eye contact across the room. He looked away first. I walked over. Justin. He turned, startled. David, I didn't know you'd be here. I work here, remember? Right. Yeah, of course. He shifted his weight. Look, I don't want to make this awkward. I'll leave. Stay. It's fine. We stood in silence for a moment. Finally, he said, I'm sorry. For everything. I know. Dad's still angry. Mom won't talk about you. They sold the house last month. Moved into a condo in Arlington. I heard. They're okay. Not great, but okay. Good. Another long silence. Then Justin asked, Why? Why did you do it? If you'd just told me the shares were worth something, I never would have bought them for $500. I looked at him. At my older brother who'd always been the golden child, the successful one, the one who made our parents proud. Because you never would have believed me. None of you would. You had to see it yourself. See what? That I wasn't the failure you thought I was. Justin's eyes went red. He nodded slowly. You proved that. Congratulations. I didn't do it for congratulations. Then why? Because I needed to know if you'd ever value me for me, not for what I could give you. And now I know. David, take care of yourself, Justin. I walked away. Didn't look back. It was the last time I saw him. A year later, Vertex Dynamics got acquired by Amazon for $890 million. My share was worth $364.9 million after taxes. I kept $100 million in cash and invested the rest. Started a nonprofit focused on education access for low-income students. Named it The Worthless Foundation. My father sent me one email after the acquisition news broke. Subject line, Congratulations. Body text, You won. I hope you're happy. I deleted it without responding. But sometimes, late at night, I think about that $500. About the moment I signed those shares over to Justin. About whether I did it out of spite or strategy or some combination of both. About whether I'm the hero or the villain of this story. I don't have an answer. I just know that I'm free. Free from the need for their approval. Free from the obligation to save them. Free from the weight of being the family safety net. They taught me to be realistic. I learned that family doesn't mean unconditional support. It means reciprocal respect. And when that respect dies, so does the family. I don't regret what I did. I regret that I had to do it. But I'd make the same choice again, every single time. Because the alternative was spending my life trying to prove my worth to people who'd already decided I had none. The $500 wasn't about money. It was about value. And in the end, I showed them exactly what they'd thrown away. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.